This video is going to be a follow-up film study to talk about Jadeveon Clowney, really focusing on my observations from his 2024 film. I did an initial video a couple of days ago when he was released by the Carolina Panthers, advocating for him to be a potential signing for the Detroit Lions, and I'm going to solidify that opinion and say that I think it's a perfect fit. It may not be necessarily the guy that the Lions go after, but with their cap space available clearly and their roster configuration, they need to do something, whether it's Zadarius Smith, Jadeveon Clowney. It has to be said, however, that Detroit's passer rating defense was number one in the NFL last year. I think they only gave up 18 touchdowns and had 16 interceptions while finishing 15-2. So back to Clowney and the 2024 film. Definitely plays better in a three-point stance, if you ask me. I think that's quite obvious from the film. Welcome to check this video out and the previous video that I produced, as well as others, and let me know what you think. I would say there's increased energy output in the first 2, 3, or maybe even 4 steps when he's down in a three-point stance. And basically not observing. He's just attacking. I think that play style just suits him better. It's not a knock on Jadeveon Clowney at all. It's just what he appears to be better at, as opposed to reading and seeing the play, then reacting. I think you get more out of Clowney if he's attacking. I'm going to focus initially on the Chiefs film from 2024. He did have 1.5 sacks in that game, and there's some good reps and good energy output, but he's not nearly as involved in this game, particularly as we saw as Ravens fans in 2023. Just looked different from the guy we observed play with, incredible passion and effort across 2023. So let's get the film started with Clowney. Most of his reps are going to be against Jawan Taylor, and I thought Taylor did a nice job of kind of countering and changing the look up on Clowney. Initially, a pass rush here from the left-hand side of our screen. Clowney, interestingly, did play most of his snaps off the left side in 2024, from at least the film that I have. So from a Detroit Lions perspective there's obviously a fit configuration with Aiden Hutchinson typically being lined up to the left in Detroit's defense. One thing to note, checking out the film, and one of my observations, is he didn't seem to have the play strength to upend or disrupt Jawan Taylor sometimes. His rips, Clowney's rips or clubs or swats, it just didn't seem to be able to budge the guy's arms or make significant impact such that he could dislodge him. And that was on multiple moves. He does have some wins, don't get me wrong. Like I said, 1.5 sacks in this game. The timing on his strikes was a little bit off as well. So here he is in a three-point stance against Taylor off the left side of the defense again, and you can see Taylor gets into him a little bit on this kind of jump step where Clowney's trying to swat down with the inside hand or chop down with the inside hand. And you can see that it doesn't really impact Taylor that much at all. Mahomes is able to get out of there for a short gain. Something else I want to mention here when watching Clowney film from 2024 is getting lined up late. There's a lot that could be said about that, and some of it will be a jump in the gun. Certainly could be a byproduct of cardio or stamina issues. But look, this is an extremely intelligent football player. I think he's gathering info for as long as possible, which is a great thing, right? It's good that you want your players to gather info. How far away is the running back? Is the tight end on the other side looking at me? Is the right guard checking something that we know based on film he usually checks on a draw play or something like that? It also, to me, though, could be an indication that Clowney doesn't trust anyone else on the defense to do so, meaning I would prefer an inside linebacker or both inside linebackers, strong safety / nickel, to do that, and then to be able to communicate things to other guys on the defensive line, Clowney being one of them, to get ready. Nonetheless, he is very late lining up at times, and it's something that kind of shows up on film and just at least draws your attention. He's just off screen to our right, down in a three-point stance, a little bit late. Does get a nice little frame and rip on Jawan Taylor here. Mahomes escapes because he sees the blitzing inside linebacker. It's Jewell. And he knows that since the running back is motioned out, there's only 2 to handle 3. So the 3 For the Panthers, which I didn't think was an extremely well coordinated defense, to be honest with you, is the inside linebacker Clowney, and then the defensive tackle causes Mahomes to get out of there from a Clowney standpoint. Inconsequential, obviously, to statistically. Do see a little bit of a better get off on this particular snap. Quick game opportunity here for the Chiefs. Clowney going to get a little bit interrupted by Jawan Taylor. Quick little stab with both hands into Clowney's chest, stands him up, and he's already a little bit high, if you ask me, in his approach. As a result of being stood up and losing his footing, Clowney's swat from the outside is unable to generate any power, or enough power, at least, to impact Jawan Taylor. Clearly a win for Taylor on this snap. Not to say that Clowney wasn't able to work free a few times. He's going to cut the corner here on Jawan Taylor in a moment. It's a good matchup if you want to gauge as a fan what you might get. Ravens fans, again, I was quite honest in my first video. I don't think that Clowney's going to come to Baltimore. I don't think it's a great fit necessarily for what the Ravens have from a positional standpoint in terms of depth, number one, and number two, the fact that so many guys come off the books for Baltimore after 2025, Kyle Van Noy, Odafe Owe, David Ojabo being the main three. Do I think that Clowney can produce, more than 5 sacks in 2024? Yeah, I do. I think the output is there. I think the output is there when he's playing in a 3-point stance and he's attacking rather than reading. Again, lined up on the left-hand side of the defense, matched up against Taylor. You can see late getting into his stance before the ball was snapped. He is able to cut the corner and turn back towards Mahomes here. I thought that Taylor got away with a hold a couple of times in this game, not on this particular snap. It is going to get called here in one of the plays that I'll show you when focusing on the Chiefs film. Get to the end zone angle so you can see what I mean by cut the corner. Same type of little jump club move, and this time he's able to follow it up with the outside hand and then get Taylor to the ground, turn, cut the corner, get to Mahomes, and get one of his 1.5 sacks on the day. I'm not sure he necessarily makes that move from a 2-point stance. Things seem more defined, decisive, quicker from a 3-point stance. Pad level is something I had actually talked about when he played in Baltimore in 2023. It seems more pronounced in this particular matchup against the Chiefs. Other games in 2024 that we'll kind of explore a little bit later are more consistently explosive for Clowney. Look more familiar to me in terms of the guy we saw in 2023. One thing to mention, the Chiefs' usage of RPOs, it can freeze people, and we're going to get an example here. Like I said, RPOs can have a huge impact on the front 6 or front 7, and this particular snap is one of them that I think can be used to illustrate that. Clowney is following down with the fake to the running back, and he's you got to kind of have a complementary nature between these two players when you're dealing with an RPO, meaning the defensive end / edge defender and the inside linebacker to that side. Basically, we have trips to the right. And look, the Chiefs are a right-handed football team. There's always been a right-handed football team, especially in moments that matter. Generally, their big plays are going to, in third and fourth down or critical situations, are going to be to the right-hand side. They're going to run the play to the side of Mahomes' strength. But you can see Clowney here has gone with the running back, the inside linebacker. I think it's Jewel, 47, has worked to that space to kind of take away a slant or anything like that, a zone type relationship. Mahomes able to deliver a throw, really nice throw on the move to the right-hand side for a completion near the sideline. Not really a similar play here conceptually, because on that snap, Clowney was going with the running back and really vacated that edge. Mahomes had a free lane to throw, moving or shifting to his right. This one's an interrupt by Taylor, meaning he's interrupting Clowney's move once again, stabs into his chest. When I said that, the timing was off earlier, that's what I meant, because he's able to catch him into the chest here while Clowney is still trying to run his move, therefore destroying and interrupting all of his power helps give Mahomes a little bit more time to escape and find DeAndre Hopkins wide open in the back of the end zone. Not only is Clowney in a 3-point stance more explosive, if you ask me, better as an attacking style player, but also I think he's able to get to he has more work that gets accomplished in in a top side move, at least in this game. So a little bit of a stutter against Taylor, and then just dipping underneath, almost a ghost move, somewhat, perhaps pad level, a little bit too high to be considered a really great ghost move, but nonetheless, it forces Taylor to hold and pull him down. I thought Taylor could have been, well, I think Taylor could get called for holding 3, 4, 5 times in pretty much every game. In this particular game, I thought there was two other instances where he could have been called for a hold against Clowney, but like I said, really good matchup of two high-level guys. Gives you an indication of maybe what Clowney can get accomplished in 2025. Like I mentioned a couple of plays ago, the Panthers defense not very well run, in my opinion. There's some predictability there in how they're lined up, number one. Number two, poor recognition overall, and maybe that leads to the point that I was talking about with Clowney kind of standing up, trying to gather intel for as long as possible, maybe because other guys aren't doing it. Also, multiple blown coverages, and those blown coverages are easy for us as fans to identify, right? It's less easy to identify or make inferences about a predictable alignment, and Carolina, if you ask me, had those issues often. Final two plays here from this game against the Chiefs that I think do reflect well on Clowney's ability to make plays and kind of redirect. Here, a screen. You do have another hold called against the Chiefs. He's able to bounce off of the blocker, in this case, Taylor pass Sutton. Uh, Taylor also gets a strike to the face, which I think is actually what the penalty is called. Clowney spins off of it, able to get back involved with the running back and make the play. I would offer to you that, maybe it'd be a good idea for Clowney to play 30 to 35 snaps a game as opposed to the 40 to 45 that, he would look to play, or even 50, more so on top of 50. Clowney wants to be on the field. He wants to be on the field and have an impact. I wonder if at this point, allowing him to play less snaps, 30 to 35, but be absolute maximum effort, fifth gear from the snap, isn't better served for Clowney and the team that he plays for. One thing I want to talk about in this play and mention a couple of other times is how many guys Clowney impacts, meaning he makes contact with. You've got the tackle, the running back, and then obviously the quarterback to finish the play. Clowney is one of those guys that if you were to track, it's not a stat, if you were to track how many offensive players do they make contact with in the course of a play, Clowney to me would consistently be in the 2 to 3 range, meaning 2 to 3 players contacted for the opposing team on any given snap. And many times that occurs in the span of the first 1.5 to 2 seconds that the ball has been snapped. Let's take a look at some other film from 2024 that I think reflects really who Jadeveon Clowney is, at least in my mind, and probably the minds of most Ravens fans who got to watch him during the spectacular 2023. 9.5 sacks, I think over 40 tackles. Interestingly, he did exceed that tackles number in Carolina this year. Uh, Nonetheless, I didn't think he made as many impactful plays and certainly didn't get to the quarterback as often. I think 19 quarterback hits was the total in 2023, down to 11 in 2024. The tenacity, the ability to close space, play through contact is going to be the focus here against some other teams. You got the guard working out to him late to help out the tackle. I think it's Cody Malk, rookie for the Bucks this past year. And these are the types of effort plays that showed up for Clowney in Baltimore in 2023 that if you're a Lions fan and you're wondering why Ravens fans are so high on him and talking about possibly reacquiring him, or why I talk about him in such glowing manner, it's because we witnessed plays like that consistently. Couple of snaps here against the Cowboys that just, I think, reflect extremely well when he's playing at a particular angle, maybe even from a little bit of a wider alignment in a 3-point stance. Just getting his hands up to get a pass defense here against the Cowboys and not even give the receiver an opportunity to catch the football. The types of things that, yeah, there is a statistical marker for this one, meaning that passes defense clearly show up on film. But one thing that does not, in terms of stats, I should say, is blockers dislodged, meaning the strikes or the swats or just contact with offensive players, like I mentioned earlier. There's no stat to track it, but it's clear that Jadeveon Clowney is someone who wears people down with his pace. And I don't just mean over the course of a game. What I mean is during a play. He's so maniacal with the way that he attacks sometimes that I think it really impacts offensive players, blockers who are trying to deal with him just within the 6 or 7 seconds of one offensive snap. That type of effort is what you'll see here off the left hand side of the defense, right hand side of our screen against the right tackle for the Cowboys. Playing through contact, number one. Misfires a little bit with maybe his move, but is so violent and disruptive. Even looks a little stronger with his swats or clubs, if you ask me. You can see really knocks this tackle off balance somewhat, interrupts his step, and is able to get a pass defense. That right there is the type of effort that Ravens fans saw from Jadeveon Clowney, and as I mentioned earlier, it's why they have such a high opinion of him right now in 2025. I was kind of excited to get to see other games from 2024. As I said in the first video that I put out, I went and downloaded 3 games. Really, only watched 2 of them at three, the Chiefs game and 2 others, the Bucks and the Cowboys. That guy that we saw in 2023 in Baltimore, he's on film in 2023. I'm sorry, he's on film last year in Carolina. It just took a while for me to get there. Hopefully, for you, Saturday morning videos can have a slower pace so you can enjoy them. Number one, my first video on Clowney, some would say, was too optimistic. He only had 5.5 sacks. Right, I think 46 tackles, 11 quarterback hits. This one started out more negative for sure with the Chiefs film, but there was a lot of disruptive film later in the season for Clowney. In the right, it's my opinion that in the right place on a good defense around guys and coaches that he trusts, there's no reason why he can't offer a shit ton of violent plays that disrupts the offense. Now, does that mean 8 or 10 or 12 sacks? I think it depends on who else you've got on the defense. I don't believe the Detroit Lions need someone to come in and give 8, 10, or 11 or 12 sacks. I think they need someone to come in and be a consistent player against the run and the pass and offer play with the level of effort that they require, which is a high standard if you ask me. Like I said, if you were to track players in terms of contact with offensive blockers, Clowney would be at the top of the list for me and the players I've watched film of in the last year and a half to 2 years. But also this, if you were to track how many players he makes contact with when he's in a 2-point stance versus a 3-point stance, but only limit the time frame to the first 1.5 or 1.7 seconds after the snap, I think you would see a clear differential in what Clowney is able to do and or disrupt. Meaning, when he's in a 3-point stance, you're talking about a guy who is extremely disruptive, even still. No better play can really be used as an example of what I talked about than this one. So we're going to show this multiple times. 3-point stance, getting chipped by the running back on an inside move against the tackle. The guard comes out to deal with him as well and elevates to knock the pass down. I think this is a beautiful play. You can see that the ball is being deflected or batted down by Clowney here. I think this is a beautiful play to use as a selling point. If you're his agent and you said, and a front office like the Lions gave you 2 minutes, hey, come in and show us his best plays and what you think he'd be capable of in Detroit, this would be one of them. It's not a sack, but playing through contact, just playing downhill at the target point, meaning he's lined up in a manner that puts him at that angle right there. It's not exactly the way that it works out because, like I said, he obviously gets chipped by the running back. I think it's Dowdell. Then the right tackle, right guard also elevates to go make the play. That right there, if you ask me, is who Jadeveon Clowney is in a best case scenario. Another example of playing at that angle. Now he happens to be in a 2-point stance this time and playing with incredible effort and just tenacity, such that he overwhelms NFL players, blockers, in fact. This is a right tackle for the Cardinals. And you can see Clowney accepts a little chip from the running back and is still able to get to the quarterback, get his hands up, and disrupt the throw. This, to me, is an underrated gem of a signing potentially for the Lions. Well, it's a big name because it's a former number one pick. And I get it. There were people in the comments section in the first video saying, he's a disappointment as a number one pick. I'm not talking about who Jadeveon Clowney was supposed to be. I'm watching the film from 2023 and telling you who he is right now. He can still be a disruptive guy who makes an impact and changes the game, tilts things in your team's favor. I'm not sure what there isn't to like, and I've tried to offer as wide a variety of film to support that assertion as possible from 2023 with the first video and this one focusing on 2024. In the lead into this video, I talked about the passer rating allowed by Detroit. Now, 2023 was ironically worse than 2024. To recap, 2024, the Lions were 82 passer rating allowed, best in the NFL, despite only having 37 sacks. 2023, the year before, when they were obviously far more healthy, 91.5 passer rating allowed, 12th worst in the NFL. Nonetheless, I still think a signing like a Jadeveon Clowney is exactly what the Detroit Lions need. Although if Zadarius Smith is signed, they may not think they need another player at all. And look, Clowney will have options, right? I think the film supports that, even in 2024, where against the Chiefs, didn't look as impactful. If you want to focus on that game in the beginning of the season as well, but I just don't think that a guy like Jadeveon Clowney can be ignored as a viable option for multiple teams in the NFL, but particularly the Detroit Lions. And I get it, right? There's so many other guys on the roster who are going to play edge defender, outside linebacker, especially to the boundary. Derek Barnes, Ahmed Hassanin, Josh Pascal. I think they're all very good players. And look, I really like Barnes. I've done multiple videos on him. And in fact, I think his loss in 2024 was huge. It was, in fact, undercovered from the standpoint of what Barnes brought to the defense. I like Pascal, but not as a pass rusher, right? Even though I want to see him succeed in his career despite the injuries. On a 3rd and 5, when you need someone to get to the quarterback and you've got Aiden Hutchinson on the other side, I'm not sure how you can realistically say that Jadeveon Clowney wouldn't be the guy you'd want opposite him compared to all those names I've mentioned, even, for example, as Zadarius Smith. But I get it. If the Lions were able to bring in Zadarius or bring him back for a return, I should say, then feel like the position is addressed. At this point, it hasn't occurred at all, and I would like to see that team be finished off from a roster configuration standpoint, very similar to my contention that the Ravens are in a position where they've got to address the interior defensive lineman, D tackle, and possibly even guard depth. But that second choice was probably addressed with the Emory Jones and Dellinger drafts in the 2025 NFL draft. Nonetheless, this is my film study, my second and probably final of Jadeveon Clowney, unless he gets signed to one of the teams that I'm blessed enough to cover. I do think that he's a great fit for the Detroit Lions. Maybe not from a right-left standpoint, because last year with Carolina, he did predominantly play off the left-hand side, so he'd be facing the right tackle for the offense, and that's really where Aiden Hutchinson has been, throughout the majority of his career, I should say. But I'm sure that they could figure that out if they brought in a player the caliber of Jadeveon Clowney who can impact the game still, in my opinion, the way that he can. You're welcome to let me know what you think of the 2024 film that I've presented. The video may have gone on longer than perhaps intended, but Saturday morning film studies are something I want to start bringing back for the summer, leading into the 2025 NFL season, when I try to release film studies / previews or even commentary videos early on Saturday mornings for you guys to enjoy. I appreciate you guys' time. Let me know what you think of the video in the comment section. And if you think other Lions fans or other football fans in general would enjoy this film study look at Jadeveon Clowney and what he might bring to the table in Detroit or elsewhere, then please consider grabbing a link to this video, sharing it out on social media to help this content get more reach.